After 20 years of heartbreak, this CEO discovered a life-changing secret in his secretary's essence. Jack Weston sat in the dim light of his living room, where shadows danced on the walls, whispering stories of dreams once held and now lost. For 20 years, he had walked the tightrope of success, the CEO of a thriving company, a beacon of what the American dream could achieve. But one sudden collapse had shattered everything, leaving him ensnared in guilt and shame. The laughter of his children now felt like an echo as he wrestled with the suffocating weight of financial ruin. Was he truly a failure in their eyes? He couldn't shake the feeling. Fridays were a peculiar balm for his frayed soul. The local community center buzzed with life, hosting an open mic night that drew in every flavor of the neighborhood, laughter, music, and hope mingling in the air. Jack arrived late, slinking into a corner, wrapping his melancholy around him like an old quilt. Each strum of the guitar and each heartfelt melody swirled within him, piercing his solitude. And then Maria took the stage. She was his unassuming secretary, always wearing a smile that seemed too bright for the heaviness of his own life. Her voice soared, raw and passionate, piercing Jack's heart as she sang about struggling to find hope amid desperation. Each note felt like shards of glass, cutting through the cloud of despair that enveloped him. Suddenly, Jack was transported to memories he often tried to numb. His children's laughter flickered through his mind, their trust replaced by disappointment. The emotional turmoil swirled like a tempest, each word Maria sang igniting a flicker of longing buried deep within him. He had sacrificed so much in pursuit of success, his family's time, his peace, and now his very self. This wasn't just her song. It was his life, speaking through her. His heart pounded as Maria finished, the applause rolling through the crowd like a warm wave. He felt drawn to her, like gravity pulling him closer. But as he approached, words failed him. Rather than the admiration he wished to convey, his clumsiness made him appear pompous and lost in his own world of privilege, missing the deeper struggles that they'd both faced. The misunderstanding was palpable as whispers fluttered around them. The community that had once seen him as a leader now watched with judgment, their glances sharp as blades. Jack turned away, the shame flooding back, anger and disappointment stinging like salt in an open wound. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. In the chaos of his heart, Jack found himself staring at Maria, vulnerability spilling from her as the crowd rallied around her. They connected with grace and pain, the community embracing her, threading with their own struggles a tapestry of lives woven together by hardships and resilience. As Jack absorbed this, the realization dawned on him. True wealth wasn't in profits or status, but in the connections overshadowed by pride. But as the night lingered, Jack couldn't help but wonder, could he mend the rift with his family? Would Maria find her way in this intertwined journey, or would their pasts continue to overshadow any hope for redemption? The air crackled with uncertainty, echoing the uncharted road ahead. Jack stepped back into the shadows, his head swirling in the aftershock of Maria's performance. The applause faded into background noise, but the weight of the moment lingered, pressing down on him like a heavy blanket. Everyone around him seemed to glow with a sense of belonging that he craved but felt he was losing. He glanced at Maria as she laughed with the crowd, no trace of the doubt he carried in his heart. She belonged. His feet shuffled uncertainly, carrying him back outside where the cool night air wrapped around him, offering a momentary reprieve. He leaned against the brick wall of the community center, staring up at the stars scattered across the night sky. Each one seemed so distant, so far removed from his own reality. Yet, if those tiny lights could burn brightly in the vast void, what did that say about hope? Jack closed his eyes, letting the cool breeze caress his face. Memories of his children flooded back, their enthusiastic faces, their little arms wrapped around him, their untainted joy. The ache of distance between them now felt like a chasm, wide and forbidding. How had he let it come to this? Every milestone he had chased had taken him further from the simple pleasure of their laughter. "Hey, you okay?" A familiar voice broke through his reverie. It was Maria, crossing the threshold of the door, her earlier light dimmed slightly by concern. "You looked a bit lost back there." "Yeah, just thinking," Jack replied, forcing a smile, but it fell short of reaching his eyes. "About the company?" she ventured, taking a small step closer, her gaze steady and kind. He shook his head. "More like about life. Choices we make. What really matters, you know." She cocked her head, her expression softening. "It's easy to get caught up and then lose sight of what's important." "I get it." Jack wasn't sure if he wanted that kind of understanding. It felt too intimate, too raw. But underneath her vulnerable words, he sensed a profound empathy, something he had desperately longed for. "Your song," he said slowly, an idea forming in his mind. "It spoke to me in a way I can't explain. I felt like you were telling my story." "How did you do that?" Maria's eyes lit up for a moment before shadowed doubt returned. "Honestly, I just sing about my life, the struggles, like everyone else. We've all faced something, right?" "Yes, but you turned it into art," Jack countered, frustration tinging his voice. "I've neglected so much, pushed everyone away to chase success. I forgot how to connect." "Maybe you can start again," she replied quietly, a glimmer of hope sparkling between them. "It's never too late." Jack looked at her, and for the first time, he felt he was about to say more than just words. The air between them thrummed with potential, each heartbeat echoing the possibility of change. He took a bold step forward, yearning to bridge the distance that had defined his loneliness for so long. "Would you?" He hesitated and swallowed hard. "Would you sing that song again? Just for me?" The moment hung heavy in the thick air. Maria's breath caught, and Jack could see her wrestling with his request. The doubt in her eyes mirrored his own insecurities, but maybe this was the catalyst they both needed. "Yes," she answered, and the single word resonated like a promise. As she prepared to sing, staring into the distance as if to summon her emotions once more, Jack felt a flicker of warmth bloom in his chest. Could this night change everything? Standing there, intertwined in their fragile hopes, Jack held his breath, ready for whatever transformation awaited them. But would he have the courage to face his past? Maria took a deep breath, her fingers lightly brushing over her guitar strings, and the world around them faded. The soft strumming felt like a heartbeat in the silence, each note layering over the tension that hung between them. Jack watched her, captivated. It was as if the moment was stretching, pulling him into a space where nothing else existed, only her voice and the truth they had both skirted around. And then, she began. The melody flowed like a gentle river, each verse unveiling her heart. "I've walked through shadows, seen the dark," she sang. It was achingly beautiful, words dripping with an honesty that struck a chord within him. Memories bubbled to the surface, the laughter of his children, the warmth of family dinners, the crisp smell of autumn leaves during weekend hikes. All things he had sidelined for the sake of ambition. Tears pricked at his eyes, and he blinked rapidly, refusing to let them spill. How had he let life slip away like this? But as Maria's voice washed over him, something shifted. It was uncomfortable, yet reassuring. Each line was a reminder of what he once cherished, a gentle nudge back toward the life he seemed to have abandoned. As she continued, Jack saw the crowd drift outside, drawn by the music. They stopped to listen, their faces softening in the glow of the community center lights. For a fleeting moment, the worries and pressures Jack had buried under piles of work began to dissolve. He was no longer just a CEO. He was a father, a friend, a human being deserving of connection. When the song came to an end, silence enveloped them like a warm embrace. Maria's gaze found his, and he could see the vulnerability in her eyes. "Did it resonate?" she asked softly, the echo of her performance lingering in the night air. Jack took a deep breath, his chest tightening with emotion. "Resonate? Doesn't he cover it?" he responded, his voice barely above a whisper. "It ripped apart everything I thought I wanted." She stepped closer, searching his face for understanding. "You don't have to carry all of that alone. It's okay to ask for help, to reach out." For the first time in years, Jack felt the light of hope flickering within him. The weight he had worn as armor now felt more like a shackle, and he longed to break free. Would he dare to step back into the light? Would he allow himself to be vulnerable enough to reconnect with his children, to embrace every part of his jumbled life? I don't know how, he confessed, vulnerability spilling from his lips. I don't know where to start. Maybe it starts right here, Maria said, her voice steady yet tender. Maybe it starts with just being honest. With yourself and with them. Her words settled over him, stirring something deep and essential. He wanted to believe that change was possible, but doubt clawed at the edges of his mind. Could he truly step back into their lives after all this time? The longing swelled in his chest, suffocating yet necessary. Then, the sound of laughter pulled his attention. A group of familiar faces emerged from the building, their voices ringing with joy. People who had been a part of his life, but were now distant echoes. Suddenly, he was reminded of who he had been before the grind of work claimed so much of his time. Jack's heart raced. Could he really take that step? Could he reach out and reconnect with those he had pushed away? Just as the questions flooded his mind, something deep inside him stirred, urging him to try. Maria, he started, feeling the impact of her song reverberate through him. I think I need to make amends. Before he could gather his thoughts, he turned to the crowd, staring into the faces he recognized. They were waiting for him to bridge the gap he had created. The energy in the air crackled with possibilities as he stepped forward, but as he began to approach, that familiar fear caught in his throat. Would they accept him back? Would they forgive the distance he'd created? With the sound of their laughter ringing in his ears, Jack remembered Maria's promise. It's never too late. As he stood there, poised on the edge of change, he felt the first stirrings of courage rising inside him. But what revelation awaited him when he reached out? Would he find acceptance or fear? Jack took a hesitant step forward, his heart hammering in his chest like a war drum. He could see faces he knew well, some surprised, some smiling, others filled with uncertainty. But they were his friends, his family. They had all been part of his life until he had let ambition take the wheel, leaving everything behind on the roadside. Hey, he tried, but his voice cracked. The simple greeting fell flat against the fresh air. He swallowed hard, forcing the words out. I know I've been away. Jack. It was Lisa, his sister. She pushed through the crowd, her eyes wide, glistening like they did when they were kids. You're back. He wanted to say something clever, something that would make her smile, but all he could do was nod, feeling the sting of emotion tighten his throat. 20 years apart, and this was the best he could manage. As she approached, guilt washed over him. I'm sorry for not being there. The words fell from his lips before he could stop them. For everything. The laughter of the crowd faded, replaced by an uneasy silence. Jack could see that his absence had not gone unnoticed. The hearts he had once held close were now circles he'd drawn in the sand, and the tide of time was washing them away. Why now? Lisa asked, her voice steady but edged with hurt. What changed? In that moment, Jack could feel all eyes on him, the weight of their expectations pressing down like a heavy blanket. He could hear the echoes of Maria's song buzzing in his mind, nudging him toward honesty. He took a deep breath, remembering the warmth of her voice that guided him just moments ago. I heard something tonight. Maria, she sang a song that made me realize what I've lost. What really mattered. As he spoke, more faces came into focus, his old friends, former co-workers, even a few neighbors. They hadn't just been a group of distant acquaintances. They were a part of his story, each playing a role in the tapestry of his life. Did you really think we'd forget you? Said Mark, an old friend, stepping closer. You're our brother, Jack. Family doesn't just go away, no matter how hard you try to convince yourself. Jack's breath caught in his throat. Had they really thought of him as family after all this time? The realization struck him harder than he expected. Maybe he hadn't been as far gone as he thought. And what were you waiting for? A voice chimed in from the back. It was Caroline, the neighbor whose kids had played in his backyard. You think we wouldn't understand? Life is hard. We all go through our struggles. He felt the walls he had built around himself begin to crumble. A rush of gratitude flooded him. He wasn't just standing alone. He was surrounded by community and love. Can you forgive me? He whispered into the space where laughter and chatter should have filled the void. It felt raw, sincere, and terrifying. For a moment, the world stood still. What do you think? Lisa finally said, the corners of her mouth twitching into a smile that felt more real than anything Jack had encountered in years. Laughter broke out among them, wrapping around him like a lifeline. "Yes, let us go back to how it was. We missed you," Mark exclaimed, giving a slight punch to his shoulder. Just like that, the tension dissipated like fog under the sun. Jack felt the familiar warmth of connection wrap around him. This was home, the laughter, the banter, the joy of being surrounded by people who cared. But then, as all good things twist away like the flicker of a flame, Jack felt a pang of uncertainty. Could he really just rejoin their lives without addressing the years of silence? What would it take to make it whole again? "Let us grab a drink and catch up," Lisa suggested, pulling him toward the group. But Jack hesitated for just a moment longer, looking back at Maria, who stood off to the side, watching him with a small smile. Her presence lingered in his mind. This journey of reconnection was only just beginning. What would it take to truly heal the wounds they all endured? As he stepped forward into the noise and warmth of laughter, a question echoed in his mind, one that could twist the tide again. Was he brave enough to find out? Jack felt the laughter wash over him, pulling him into the familiar rhythm of his old life. The crowd was buzzing now, the energy crackling like electricity in the air. But underneath that sense of belonging, a lingering doubt settled in his stomach. This moment felt blissful, but the shadows of his past were quick to creep in. "Come on, Jack. What are you waiting for?" Lisa's voice cut through his thoughts. She was beaming, pulling him along by his arm, drawing him deeper into the crowd. Each step felt like a step back into the warmth of home. Yet he couldn't shake the feeling that every friend and familiar face might still carry the weight of his absence. They reached the bar, where laughter mingled with the clink of glasses. Familiar smells of beer and peanuts enveloped him, evoking memories of long-lost nights spent with a carefree spirit. Jack felt a twinge of joy as he exchanged stories over drinks, the warmth of companionship reigniting something deep in him. Laughter bubbled around him, but the laughter felt muted against the bombardment of bittersweet memories. "You remember that time Mark tried to impress Caroline by cooking dinner?" Lisa chimed in, her eyes sparkling with mischief. Mark groaned, but the glint of laughter in his eyes betrayed him. "You burned the chicken and set off the fire alarm." And then Jack just laughed. Every shared story was a memory woven back into his heart, yet the memory of his departure stung fresh, like a thorn hidden in a bouquet. Jack's gaze drifted to Maria, who stood by the door, watching the scene unfold. She was the calm in his storm, the song that had pierced through his complacency, and now a quiet reminder of the gulf that lay between them. He felt a pull toward her, but what could he say? As they shared more stories, he couldn't help but notice the subtle shifts in expressions. Laughter flickered, but there were still glances toward him. The satisfaction of reunion was interlaced with questions. They wanted to know, to understand, to connect in a way he had made nearly impossible. Then Caroline leaned in closer, her voice low. "So Jack, what's next? You're back. What are you going to do now?" That question hung in the air, heavy and full of expectation. He sensed the others leaning in, eyes searching his face. What could he say? He started, only to be interrupted by a child's laughter outside, echoing through the open door. It reminded him of simpler days, summers spent outdoors, and the innocent freedom he had taken for granted. "Hey, everyone," he said suddenly. "Let us take this outside." They spilled into the warm night, a circle forming as the sky turned dusky. Jack felt a spark of excitement. This felt like a new beginning, a canvas waiting for colors to be splashed across it. "To friendship," he toasted, raising his drink high. It felt good. They echoed his cheers, joining in, voices echoing into the twilight. But as the crowd's laughter rang out, he knew that beneath the surface, things were still murky. He could still feel the questions, the hesitations, the unsaid words hanging in the air like stars waiting for their moment to shine. What if this was only the surface? What if they wanted more than laughter? What if they needed him to dig deeper, to share the truth he had carried so long? Jack glanced back at Maria. She was smiling, but her eyes held a weight that resonated deep within him. Could he face that challenge? Could he let them see the vulnerability he had hidden for years? "Jack," Mark's voice cut through his reverie, snapping him back to the group. "What is really going on with you?" With those words, he felt the ground shift under his feet. All the laughter faded, replaced by a silence that made his heart race. Here it was the moment of truth. How could he begin to explain the journey of the last few years? Would they even understand? He took a deep breath, searching for clarity in himself, hoping to discover a way to connect the pieces before him. But what would he reveal? And more importantly, would it bring him closer, or reopen the wounds he had thought healed? As the world's noise faded around him, Jack realized he needed to make a choice. With the crowd leaning in, hopeful eyes upon him, he steeled himself for whatever was waiting. Would he step into the light and share what burdened his heart, or would the fear of rejection send him spiraling back into silence? Jack felt the tension in the air tighten around him, an invisible grip that threatened to stifle the laughter just moments ago. The weight of Mark's question hung like a thick fog, heavy and foreboding. He took another deep breath, trying to steady the storm within. It's complicated, he finally managed to say, his voice unsteady. For simple words that felt like a fragile dam holding back the deluge of feelings he had bottled up for so long. Complicated how? Lisa pressed, her brow furrowed in concern, her expression filled with the hope that perhaps she could help him peel back the layers. Jack looked around at the faces that surrounded him. Friends he'd known for years, who had shared laughter and tears, and now were waiting for him. The air felt thick with unspoken truths, and he could almost hear their collective breaths. "Look," he started, his pulse quickening, "I want to be completely honest with you guys. When I left, I thought I was doing what was best." He paused again, their eyes unwavering, searching for honesty. "Things got dark for a while. I thought I could escape the past by running away. But you know what? You never really escape. You take the past with you, like a shadow." Whispers broke out among the crowd, surprise and understanding flaring across their faces. A few glanced at Maria, who stood quietly a step away, her presence a grounding force. Jack met her gaze and felt an unexpected swell of encouragement. "After moving to a new city, I convinced myself the change was what I needed. I got caught up in work. You'd think a CEO would feel accomplished, everyone expects it. But I felt more alone than ever." "Jack, you're not alone now," Maria finally spoke up, pushing gently into the circle. "We're here for you. You can talk to us." Her voice was steady, but he could see a glimmer of concern in her eyes. He nodded, feeling a rush of warmth spread through him at her words. "I guess I forgot that," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "I let my work define me, thinking success would fill the void. But all it did was drown out the memories, the people who really mattered." There was a stillness now, the group absorbed in his revelation. Silence spun around them like a cushion, wrapping tightly to catch every word. Jack felt lighter and more vulnerable all at once, like he was standing on a precipice. "I lost touch with all of you because I was scared. Scared of facing the mess I made, and scared you'd judge me for being weak for walking away. I didn't know how to come back and face the skeletons I left behind." A few murmurs of affirmation sounded, their hearts resonating with his truth. That's when Lisa stepped closer, her eyes glistening. "Jack, you've always been strong. We all carry our own burdens. It's okay to talk about them." Yet he felt the irony of that statement. Those burdens felt heavier when they were laid bare. The vulnerability he craved felt like an avalanche ready to crash. What if sharing isn't enough? He wondered aloud, the doubt creeping back into his chest. "Then we take the next step together," Mark replied firmly, his expression thoughtful. "Life's about growing, not staying stuck. You know we'll have your back." Jack looked around at them again, the warmth in their eyes easing the tightness in his chest. Could he bring himself to truly open up and let them into the chaos of his mind? And as he opened his mouth to speak again, another childish laugh erupted from the nearby park, breaking the weight of the moment. It reminded him again of innocence, of all the pure moments he had abandoned in pursuit of something he thought mattered. But deep down, he felt the stirring of something more: hope. Could he finally embrace this new chapter? There was a chance to rebuild, to reconnect, to find himself again. "Okay, but first," he said, feeling a little lighter, a trace of a smile tugging at his lips, "let us talk about the karaoke night where you all insisted I lead that awful rendition of Sweet Caroline." Laughter erupted again, the walls beginning to dissolve as he dipped his toe back into the warmth of connection. For the first time in a long while, the truth didn't feel suffocating. But beneath the laughter lay a question, one that beckoned more introspection. What truths would he have to confront next? As he glanced at Maria, he sensed that their journey had just begun, and that the hardest truth may yet be waiting to be unearthed. The laughter echoed around them, filling the park with a warmth that reached each of their hearts. Jack felt the tension slip away, replaced by the familiar banter and memories that flooded his mind. He missed the close-knit bond that had once felt unbreakable. Yet, deep within him, the echoes of his past whispered reminders that this was only the surface of something much deeper. "Just wait. I've got a video of that night somewhere," Mark chimed in, a playful grin spreading across his face. "You should have seen the look on your face when you hit that high note." The group erupted into laughter again, memories serving as a balm for Jack's past wounds. But in the midst of the humor, Jack's thoughts sank into nostalgia flashes of nights spent sharing dreams and fears. He could still remember the sparkle in Maria's eyes, even way back when they were just kids in high school, dreaming about the future while sitting on the swings. He stole another glance at her, heart fluttering with all he felt, yet didn't he express. He cleared his throat, shaking off the memories. Okay, he said, trying to keep the mood light. "I promise I won't make you all suffer through that again. How about this? Why don't we share what we've all been up to? The last 20 years haven't exactly been uneventful." Lisa's eyes lit up. "Now that's an idea. I, for one, could use a good laugh instead of just thinking about all the serious stuff. I'm dying to hear about your adventures, Jack." As they all started taking turns, Jack found himself sliding further into the comfort of their laughter, his heavy heart feeling a bit lighter with every story told. Each tale reminded him of the resilience in their friendships. Mark's journey into fatherhood, Lisa's dream of starting her own bakery, and even Maria's passion for nonprofit work. Each of their lives had faced trials, yet here they were, standing strong. The warmth of togetherness wrapped around Jack like a cozy blanket. But as the last story faded into the evening air, he felt something shift within him again, a push pressing him to share more, to dive deeper. It was time to connect on a different level, to open his soul beyond the laughter. "Listen, I know we're having fun, but I feel like I still owe you guys something," he started, nervousness creeping back as they turned their attentive eyes to him again. "I think it's time I really tell you what happened when I left." But before he could gather his thoughts, the phone buzzing in his pocket interrupted him. Surprised, he pulled it out and stared, his expression changing instantly as he glanced at the screen. It was a text from his old boss, the last person he expected to hear from. A dull ache settled in the pit of his stomach as memories of that last day surged back, the confrontation, the betrayal, and the exit he thought had closed that chapter. Can I take this?" Jack asked, even as his heart raced. He stepped away, trying to shield the group from his unease. With the phone pressed to his ear, he couldn't shake the feeling that this call could unravel everything he had begun to rebuild. "Jack, I need you to come back for a meeting." The voice on the line rang out austerely. "There's something we need to discuss, something that concerns you." His chest tightened. Was this about the secrets he thought he'd buried? Did his past have claws strong enough to pull him back into the darkness he sought to escape? Stepping away from the laughter and warmth of his friends, Jack felt the weight of uncertainty settle heavy again. Could he face this unexpected twist? And would his friends still be there when he emerged on the other side of this call? The question loomed large as he struggled to find his footing, knowing that whatever lay ahead could redefine everything he had just begun to reclaim. Jack stood there in the park, the laughter of his friends fading like echoes in a large, empty hall. The sun was dipping below the horizon, turning the sky a warm hue, but all he could feel was the cold grip of anxiety knotting in his stomach. The voice on the other end of the line pulled him back to a time he thought he had left behind. "Jack, are you still there?" His old boss pressed, and Jack swallowed hard, uncertain of what to say. "Yeah, I'm here," he replied, trying to steady his breathing. The world around him felt distant, as if he'd stepped into a different realm where everything was out of focus. "Look," the man on the line continued, his tone serious. "You remember that project we were working on before? Well, we need to revisit it. I think you're still the right person for the job." The words hung there, heavy and more chilling than Jack could have anticipated. He had put so much effort into moving on, into reclaiming pieces of his life that had crumbled. But now, he felt the shadows of the past creeping back. "Why now?" he managed, frustration slipping through. "Why didn't you reach out sooner?" There was a pause, a silence that made his heart race faster. Because things got complicated, and now we're facing a major issue. I can't explain everything, but trust me, it's urgent. You might want to come back for this. Urgent. That word echoed in his mind. After all these years, he thought he was free from the shackles of his previous job, free of the whispers of betrayal and envy. But the thought of actually going back sent dread pooling in his chest. I need some time to think, Jack said, feeling worn down. Time is exactly what we don't have, the voice replied, clipped. I need your answer by tonight. The call ended, leaving Jack staring at his phone, heart pounding. With a deep breath, he turned back to his friends. They were still gathered, the warmth of their laughter feeling worlds away. He felt more isolated than ever, caught between his past and the fragile new beginnings he had started to embrace. Everything all right? Lisa asked, her brow creased with concern as he walked back to the group. Yeah, he deflected, forcing a smile. Just work stuff. But even he knew that wasn't the whole truth. He felt like a tightrope walker, balancing on the thin line between comfort and chaos. Maria shot him a look, her eyes filled with questions, and Jack's heart twisted. He wished he could explain, but how could he articulate this confusion, this internal turmoil? As Mark launched into another story, Jack forced himself to listen, to laugh. Still, his mind raced with what he just heard. The warning bells were loud, ringing through his thoughts. Coming back meant walking into a lion's den, facing old ghosts he wasn't sure he was ready to confront. He glanced at Maria again, her laughter bright against the dimming day, and wondered if they would still share this moment if he slipped back into that dark part of his life. If he went back, would he still be deserving of this happiness? As the sun dipped, casting long shadows across the park, Jack felt a shocking realization hit him. This moment was about more than work. It was about him reclaiming everything: his friendships, his self-worth, his future. Hey, he cleared his throat, capturing everyone's attention again. I need to talk to you all about the past and some of my choices. Fear gripped him as he prepared to open up, but he also felt determination stirring within. How could he move forward if he kept burying all of this inside? But just as he began to speak, a chilling message popped up on his phone screen. Jack, there's more you need to know. His heart raced. The warmth of hope he felt moments ago now tangled with dread once again. What else could possibly surface? He knew he stood at a crossroads, and the path he chose next could change everything. Would he dare take a step into the unknown? Jack's heart thundered in his chest as he stared at the message flashing on his phone screen. Jack, there's more you need to know. More? The word echoed with a weight that made him feel trapped. He pushed his phone into his pocket, feeling the cool metal against his thigh, an anchor to a reality he wanted to escape. Jack, Lisa's voice cut through his thoughts, pulling him back to the moment. You okay? You've been awfully quiet. He forced a smile, but inside, storm clouds were brewing. Yeah, just thinking about some old stuff. It was a half-truth, one that barely scratched the surface of the turmoil within. His friends laughed and swapped stories, their voices faded, blending into the background. Jack felt a gnawing sense of déjà vu, like he was slipping into a familiar yet uncomfortable role, one he had fought to abandon. The laughter around him felt like a fragile bubble, and he feared that one wrong decision would burst it. What did he want? Maria's gentle inquiry sliced through his reverie. Her gaze was steady, and for a moment, he was tempted to unload everything onto her. But he hesitated. She didn't deserve to carry his baggage. Just some old work things, he replied, shrugging it off. But her eyes, bright and questioning, held him captive. They were shimmering pools of warmth that reminded him how far he'd come since that dark chapter of his life. That glimmer of hope was the beacon he had to protect. And yet, that message lingered in his mind. What more was there? Just when he thought he could leave it all behind, the universe threw open the door to his past once more. I have to go, he abruptly announced, surprising everyone. Something has come up. The cheerful banter fell silent, the weight of his words hanging heavy in the air. Jack, wait. Maria reached for him, her fingers brushing against his arm, igniting a spark of fear and longing. He paused, feeling the warmth of her touch and the pull of her concern. Is everything really all right? She asked softly. Her sincerity made him hesitate. He wanted to reassure her, to wrap her in the truth that he was okay, that life was good now. Yet, he felt lost within a maze of choices. We'll talk later, was all he could manage. Knowing the urgency tugging at him wouldn't he wait for this moment. Jack turned away, each step taking him further from the laughter, moving him toward the shadows. His car felt like a sanctuary as he climbed inside, a reprieve from the wild thoughts racing through his mind. He turned the key, the engine rumbling to life, but he couldn't shake the feeling of being pulled between two worlds. The job he'd left behind and the life he'd fought to rebuild felt like opposing forces pressing in on him. With each passing moment, urgency grew. He fished his phone out again, contemplating the chilling message. What could possibly be more significant than the darkness he'd already faced? Jack's mind spun with possibilities, doubts, and fears. As he drove, Jack thought of the people counting on him, the friends who had shown him the light. The choice lurked like a shadow in the back of his mind, threatening to engulf him. And then it hit him: the past had a way of revealing truths that could either chain him or set him free. He fiddled with the radio, searching for something to drown out the noise. But then he stumbled upon a familiar song, one that struck a deep chord. The melody wrapped around his heart, pulling him back years to when he had felt vibrant and alive. Suddenly, he understood it wasn't just about saying no to the past. It was also about finding a way to harmonize his history with his present. But just then, his phone buzzed again, a new notification lighting up the screen. He clenched the steering wheel, uncertainty flooding in like a tidal wave. "Jack, you need to meet. It's about the project, but also it's about you." What could they possibly have to say that involved him, other than a job? Fear and anticipation mingled within him, as powerful as the song that played softly in the background. Faced with the crux of a decision he anticipated, Jack's pulse quickened. Would his past truly come back to haunt him, or could it lead to something he hadn't dared hope for? As he pulled over to the side of the road, the hesitant thought emerged. Maybe secrets could mend bridges too. His heart raced, not just with fear of the unknown, but with the thrill of potential. Would he step into the past for redemption or retreat into his current comforts? And as he glanced one last time at the road ahead, he knew the next choice could redefine everything he thought he knew about himself. What awaited him just beyond that door? Jack sat behind the wheel, breathing heavily as uncertainty washed over him. He took a moment to focus on the familiar scene outside his car window, the streets bustling with life, families laughing, people holding hands, memories of what he had almost lost flooding back in waves. The melody from the radio swallowed him, grounding him in the present and pulling him away from the shadows of his past. He felt the weight of the moment pushing against him like a tidal wave. He wasn't just stuck between two choices, he was standing at the crossroads of his entire life, his heart racing with every possibility. Closing his eyes for a moment, Jack breathed deep, calling upon the courage he had felt at the community center just hours ago, the warmth that had wrapped around him like a quilt of acceptance. "Okay," he whispered to himself. "Time to face it." He turned off the car, the world outside falling silent. Every heartbeat was loud, resonating with the unspoken words clawing at him. He pulled out his phone, glancing at the message once more. More to know. The words echoed ominously in his mind, and with resolution hardening within him, he decided to embrace whatever was waiting for him. Jack took a deep breath and headed back toward the community center. Each step felt like a declaration. He was done running. By the time he reached the doors, his heart pounded, and hope and dread waged a battle within. Entering the bustling hall filled with laughter and music, he felt an immense wave of relief wash over him. The warmth of the people, the genuine laughter, and their smiles were still there. He could see Maria among them, her voice rising above the crowd. She was the spark that had ignited his journey toward redemption, and somehow, he needed to reach her. "Jack!" Lisa's voice brought him back to reality as she waved him over. "We saved you a seat." Jack paused, glancing at the crowd, and then focused on Maria, who was singing her heart out, drawing the attention of everyone with her magnetic presence. Instead of feeling small, he felt energized watching her shine. He realized that she wasn't just a secretary. She was a symbol of everything he wanted to embrace again: connection, authenticity, and courage. That he approached them slowly, an audience waiting in anticipation, and just when he found his voice again, he felt the heaviness in his heart become lighter. He cleared his throat, taking a deep breath. "I have something to share," he started, pulling the attention away from the performance. The crowd turned their gazes to him as silence enveloped the room. "I came back tonight not just to reconnect, but to be honest," Jack began, emotions bubbling in his throat. The nervousness from before melted away as he saw familiar faces filled with support. "I've spent years hiding from the truth about myself, about my choices, and the way I pushed everyone away. Stripped bare, I could see just how much regret had weighed down my heart. But tonight, I felt something shift. I realized it's never too late." Jack felt Maria standing close by, her gaze steady and encouraging. He continued, surfing the wave of vulnerability that had sparked within. "What I truly want is to mend the rifts I've created, to reconcile with you. Each of you have carried more than I could fathom. You remind me of the strength we have together, of the love we share as friends and family." A murmur of encouragement rippled through the crowd, slightly lifting the weight from his shoulders. Mark stepped forward, his eyes shining. "We're here for you, Jack. Don't ever doubt that. We've missed you, all of you." Cheers rang out, and Jack felt the warmth of belonging washing over him, soothing all the wounds he had kept hidden for far too long. "I want to be part of this community again," Jack declared, his voice steady, finding strength in honesty. "And yes, I know it starts with forgiveness from you, and most importantly, from myself." As he glanced at Maria, he saw tears glistening in her eyes, a silent testament to the journey they'd both been on. And just like that moment back at the open mic, he felt profoundly connected to her, like they were both stepping into a new song, a powerful anthem of redemption. "Let us celebrate new beginnings, shall we?" he suggested, feeling the energy rise. "Tonight, let us sing not just for the past, but for everything that lies ahead." The crowd erupted into applause, buoyed by the excitement of transformation. Laughter bubbled and people began to shout titles, their joyous banter enveloping Jack like a warm hug. When the laughter faded and Maria stepped up to the mic again, she looked at Jack, a radiant smile illuminating her face. "All right, how about we sing together? Let us share this moment." The crowd cheered, and as Jack joined her, guitar in hand, he felt a swell of anticipation as she strummed the first chords. Together, they sang a duet of hope and renewal, weaving their journeys, interlinking their stories, and anchoring the promise of brighter tomorrows with every note that in that instant. Jack realized he hadn't just reclaimed his place in this community. He had rediscovered a part of himself long buried in the pursuit of success, the part that lived, loved, and truly found joy in connection. The echoes of the past no longer felt like chains, but stepping stones toward a brighter future. The transformation was now real, unfolding like a vibrant tapestry, with each thread representing resilience and hope, just like Maria's song. And as he continued to sing, surrounded by family and friends, Jack knew this was just the beginning. This was home. Now is the moment to act. You need to subscribe now to the channel so you won't miss the next exclusive stories of transformation and hope. Leave a like right now to show your support and help feed the algorithm that brings these stories to more hearts. Don't wait not even one more second. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending, and share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Together, let us build a community of change.